and William Bill Daley. We want you to know that voting for mayor, voting for alderman, voting for the city clerk, voting for judges, voting matters. We have get well wishes today to the Empire actor, singer, activist Jussie Smollett, who is recuperating after a harrowing attack in Chicago. We stand with him on this against hate crime against anyone is a hate crime against all of us. Frank Robinson, honorary president of the American Baseball League and the only baseball player to win MVP honors in both National and American leagues. We salute him today. I want to thank the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago and commissioners, all of the commissioners and Chairman Carrie Steele for the resolution they passed this year recognizing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day and recognizing the work we do, and Reverend Jackson does at the Rainbow Push Coalition and Push for Excellence. I want you to save the date for the Rainbow Push Coalition Citizen Education Fund 22nd Annual Wall Street Economic Summit, February 20th through the 22nd at the Sheraton Towers Times Square Hotel. Guess who's coming? Congresswoman Maxine Waters, the president of CVS, and CEO Larry Merlo will keynote during the Wall Street Conference. If you're in the New York area, if you're on the East Coast, you need to make your way to Wall Street. We're inviting all of you to join us at this year's Wall Street Conference. Oh, listen, this is really a hot topic. Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson and Jesse Jackson Jr. will be featured on The View this Tuesday, February 5th. Where they will discuss her book, Loving You, Thinking of You, Don't Forget to Pray. Don't forget to tune in to The View at 10 o'clock Chicago time on Tuesday. And I mean, can you imagine mother and son together? Well, wake up early tomorrow morning on your way to church. Listen to Keep Hope Alive radio show at Patriot AM 1150 with Reverend Jackson, co-host Santita Jackson, this Sunday and every Sunday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. You can listen on WVON 1690 and check all of your local affiliates for the correct call numbers. Listen on iHeartRadio at www.keephopealiveradio.com. And don't forget to stop by Pearl's Restaurant on Monday night at 6:30 p.m. to have a Facebook Live conversation with Let's Talk About It with Santita Jackson. She'll be back at Pearl's on February 11th. I know you like my sweatshirt. I know you all want one. You can call us right now, 773-256-2775. Those candidates who are here, you can get this shirt and other shirts and other colors in the Freedom Store. You can order them online. Call us 773-256-2775. We're broadcasting live on WVON 1690. We're on iHeartRadio, streaming live on live stream. We're on the Impact Network. There's no reason why you can't get us. We're on Facebook Live. You can tweet up with us on Twitter at Rev J Jackson or at RPC Coalition or at Push Excel. You can like us on Facebook, Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr., Rainbow Push Coalition, and Push Excel. Follow Reverend Jackson on Instagram and Periscope. There's no reason you don't know what we're doing and where we are. I want you to wake up early tomorrow on your way to church. Don't forget, Keep Hope Alive Radio to get more information. Thank you for tuning in. And now we have a few other announcements. Just one. Many young people have never left home, have never seen, never visited a college. We are doing our HBCU tour, leaving from our national headquarters in April. Parents in Chicago, or if you want to fly your child or bring your child to the college tour, our next training session, our next parent and student meet session is next Saturday at 1 o'clock. You want to register your child for the historic Black College Tour, meet us here at 930 East 50th Street next Saturday. Also, we have a Faith Tech program. It will be here next Saturday morning. Faith Tech, what does that mean? Preachers, churches, if you're interested in getting technology in your church, in your congregation, you need to join us here next Saturday. We will have a presentation on the broadcast, a full presentation during our after broadcast luncheon. You don't want to miss it. Call us at 773-256-2775. And now I want you to stay tuned, stay focused, watch the video for our weekend review.
With reports of the polar vortex raging across the Midwest, Chicago was expected to be colder than Siberia, Mount Everest, and Antarctica. Despite the bitter chill, warm hearts prevailed as Good Samaritan Candace Payne's selfless acts spurred a group of business people to rent 70 hotel rooms for the homeless.
I went on social media and I asked people on social media to, if they got vans or anyone want to pitch in to help me transport, I'll pay them for the vans if they come to help. Guess what? It's Black History Month. In February 1926, Dr. Carter G. Woodson launched Black History Month as an initiative to bring national attention to the contributions of Black people throughout American history. This week, in history,
I certainly wasn't afraid. And I wasn't afraid because I was too angry to be afraid.
4 African-American students from North Carolina A&T State University staged a sit-in in Greensboro at the Woolworth, a popular retail that was known for refusing to serve African Americans at its lunch counters. We celebrate the Greensboro 4. Did you know? They were also classmates of our very own Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. Feds made the largest fentanyl bust in U.S. history. Technology and good U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials' work led to this gigantic drug bust, not walls. Beware, drugs come in via tunnels, highways, seaways, and not on the backs of desperate immigrants. Congratulations to Wells Fargo, who pledged $50,000, the AKAs, who pledged $100,000, the AKA's HBCU Endowment Fund, who will donate over $10 million in the next 4 years toward the endowment, and High Point University announced on Friday that it is also donating $1 million to help keep Bennett College in Greensboro open. Stacey Abrams to deliver the Democrats' State of the Union response.
This is not easy. It's the tough work of building a great community, or what King called the beloved community.
Cory Booker announces his presidential bid, joining the most diverse field ever.
The families of our country deserve to have leaders who are focused on their needs, their immediate needs, their long-term needs.
Senator Kamala Harris Town Hall, the first of the 2020 election cycle, was the most watched single-candidate cable news town hall on record. And yes, it's true. Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson joins The View this Tuesday, February 5th, 2019, to discuss her book, Loving You, Thinking of You, Don't Forget to Pray. Read, share widely, Reverend Jackson's Sun-Times column. This week, Trump cranks up on the miseries of the people of Venezuela.
Register for the Rainbow Push Coalition and Citizenship Education Fund 22nd Annual Wall Street Project Economic Summit, February 20th through February 22nd, 2019, at the Sheraton, New York, Times Square Hotel. Join Reverend Jesse Jackson, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, CVS Health President and CEO Larry Mallow, and others for one-on-one conversations and panel discussion on the racial wealth gap. To register for Wall Street Project Economic Summit, go to rainbowpushwallstreetproject.org.
Well, I hope this weekend review video helps you know what issues we've been addressing in the previous week, and those things that we will continue to work on. This week, I am proud to introduce to you another group of candidates for mayor for the city of Chicago. This gentleman is an attorney. He's the former chairman of the board of the Chicago Public Schools. He says he's always been in Chicago all of his life. I want you to welcome Mr. Gary Chico.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be back here at Rainbow Push. I want to extend my acknowledgement to Reverend Jesse Jackson, one of our leaders in the city for many, many years, his son Jonathan Jackson, and my good friend Jeanette Wilson, who I had the pleasure of working with for many years at CPS. As was explained by Jeanette, Black History Month was founded here in Chicago, which is momentous, and it only stands to reason that the first African-American, Harold Washington, would be here from this community, as would the first African-American president of the United States, Barack Obama. Chicago gets it done. I'm running for mayor because I want to make opportunity available throughout this city unlike it's ever been before, and I want to start with education. I've announced a full education plan which is founded on my experience of having successfully led the Chicago Public Schools from 1995 to 2001, where we invested $3.5 billion in our schools throughout the city of Chicago, raised our academic performance 6 years in a row, straightened out our finances, left that system in tip-top shape, teacher pension fund 100% funded, and peace with our teachers. We need our teachers to get it done. Now what I want to do is make the largest expansion of vocational and technical education this city has seen. Why? Our people need jobs. I want them to graduate from high school, special high schools with vocational training, so that the trades can work with them, so that when our students are seniors, they achieve a certificate of apprenticeship, so that they're ready to go to work right away. But that's not it. We also have to bring education excellence to every part of this city. I started the expansion of the International Baccalaureate program from 1 site to 50. Now I want to take it to 150 sites throughout this city. The only way we're going to get there is to educate our children. And we're also going to put a major new investment in early childhood education. The sooner we start, the better we are. But let's face it, after that, we need to have jobs. I'm going to invest in all communities in this city, starting on small commercial streets all the way to wide areas. I want to put a new vocational trade school on the west side of Chicago, right with the unions, so we can diversify our skilled trades pipeline. I want to take 79th Street, the vacant stores you see all along that street, and repopulate them. We have the money to do it. We were going to give Amazon $2.3 billion. We'll take a fraction of that and employ our people. We'll give our entrepreneurs a chance to open a coffee shop, a dress shop, whatever, to hire people, generate revenue for this city. We can do it. And at the same time, we're going to make our streets safe. Community policing needs to come back. It worked in the early 90s with Mayor Daley. When I helped him usher that in, our communities were safe. We will do it again. And we will do it also with investing in our people. I want to support, I've committed $50 million to work with the Heartland Alliance on its READY initiative to recruit people out of gangs and pay them a good wage, like Arnie Duncan's doing with CRED, like the Safe Haven on the west side. Let's invest in our people again. Let's not lock them up. Let's invest in people. Let's help them out. I would say 10 out of 10 times, you show somebody a good path, they're going to take it. Ladies and gentlemen, this election is here and now. It's so important that we get it right. I ask for your support because I want to work with this entire city to give everybody a chance the way I was given a chance by the public schools and the universities in this city. If this city could do it for me, it can do it for everybody. I want to thank you so much for the chance to be here, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and let's enjoy February Black History Month. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chico. And now we have a young man who hails from the west side of Chicago. He's a state representative. He's been elected and serving for the past 12 years. Like many of you, I get his weekly newsletters updating us on what's happening in Springfield and on the west side. I want you to greet warmly Representative LaShawn Ford.
Thank you so much, Jeanette, Pastor Jeanette, and thank you, Operation Push. This is Black History Month, and I have to tell you that it's an honor to be here today in the House that all of us should know. Operation Push is the place that pushes a rainbow coalition for civil rights. And I'm blessed to be able to say that I've been able to stand next to Reverend Jackson, and also blessed to say that I've been able to be schooled in a way by Reverend Jackson to understand the fights and the struggles of not just black people, but all people in the city of Chicago. And so this election that's going to happen on February 26th, my daughter's birthday is March 26th, so I'm thinking about her because she don't want me to miss her birthday, and I don't want to miss it. But this election on February 26th is something that we have to take seriously. Many of the people in the press want us to think that this is about pension crisis. But this is a crisis for black people in the city of Chicago. The crisis that we are dealing with in the city of Chicago for blacks in neighborhoods in Austin, in Inglewood, and Roseland is the crisis of today. And what we know is that this is Black History Month, and it reminds us that we have to move forward and learn from the past and learn that we cannot allow elections to be fairy tales about what politicians want us to believe it's about. Because at the end of the day, we need elected officials that understand our struggles. I was born right in Cabrini Green, a place where my family couldn't move back to if we wanted to because it's gentrified. And what we know about Chicago politics, the machine politics that Harold Washington tried to destroy, that machine politics has destroyed our families and our communities, and we cannot go back to those days. It's our turn right now to move forward in this city to make sure that we have an experienced mayor that understands the struggles of everyday people. You can't elect a person that's connected to the multimillionaires and the billionaires. If you can't call a millionaire, how can you vote for a millionaire? It just doesn't make sense. I've been working with the reentry community for 12 years. I started the Band of Box in Illinois, and that gives people with reentry a chance to get a job. You cannot start campaigns by telling people what you're going to do. Let me tell you what I've done. We restored over $300 million for child care in the state of Illinois so that families could go to work and school. When Bruce Rauner cut child care, I fought to restore it. I stood up to the Republican governor and made sure that we restored child care in Illinois so that families could go to work and school and their kids could be in a safe and learning environment. I passed a bill to make sure that we give ex-offenders a chance to clean their records, seal those felonies so that they can go to work and take care of their families. That's what I've done. I've also made sure that we expanded the treatment of HIV and AIDS so that we could slow the spread of HIV and AIDS in the black community. I am the person that's just like Chicago. And we have to have a mayor in this city that understands that we cannot turn back. The black struggle is real, and Black History Month is our turn and our time to reinvent ourselves and not allow politics to tell us how we should be living our lives. As the mayor of this city, I vowed to not just talk about helping black people and brown people in this city. I vowed that we will continue the work that we have done in Springfield, and we will rebuild our neighborhoods on the south and west sides of Chicago. Vacant and abandoned buildings will no longer be. The only place you see vacant and abandoned buildings is on the west and south sides of Chicago, and that's not right. And I got to tell you, my punch number is 32, and I ask you to go to FordForChicago.com and vote for Ford.
Well, you've heard from Attorney Chico, you've heard from Representative Ford, and now you're going to hear from William Bill Daley. He's the former Secretary of Commerce under President Clinton. He's the former Chief of Staff for President Obama. He's one of the members of the Daley family. Greet warmly William Bill Daley.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jonathan, and to all of you, I wish you a good Black History Month. I honored to be here. This is a place where Chicago has come in good times and in difficult times. Reverend Jackson has been a leader that I may not agree with him all the time, nor he agree with me, but we have had enormous respect for each other, and I'm running for mayor because this election is about the future of our city. I have spent my life in this city. I know this city. Those of us who have been here know the good, the bad, and the ugly of our city. I've lived it. I've had a career very different than others who have come before you and talk about what they're going to do, even though they've been in politics and an elective office for years. I have not. I took a different path than other people. I stayed in the private sector most of my career, except, as the doctor said, with President Clinton and President Obama, and I'm proud of the service I gave them, and I'm proud of what I've tried to do in the private sector to help our city. I look at this future of our city as bright if we stay together and we work together. The private sector has to be brought in a different way to help our communities. All of us remember those days of those pioneer business people on the south side and west side, the Gardners, the Johnsons, George and John, Jacoby Dickens, so many businesses that were at the heart of the south side. The economy of the south side was very different. Our city has changed over the last 40 years. Much of the African American community moved to the suburbs like other people began to do in the 80s. Those other people, white people basically, could move to the suburbs early. African Americans could not move to the early 80s. And when they were allowed to, as they had a right to, they did what everybody else did. They went to the suburbs for the jobs and the two-car garage and the big lawn. That exodus is beginning to turn, and we must be part of turning that. We've got to get the private sector into our communities in a different way. But as you listen to the politicians who've been in office for years, and they talk about what they did, then ask yourself why things have stayed the same. Many come before you and talk about the past, the good or the bad of the past. We all know that who have been here. There's a reason why the front windshield of our cars are much bigger than the rearview mirror, because that's where we have to go. We have to go forward. We have to change things in the city. I want to be a leader for the entire city. I know this city. I know the good of it, as I said. I know the business community. I can bring the business community in a different way than it has in the past. And I ask for your vote. I ask for your support. But more important than that, if I win this election, we have to come together and make this a better city around crime, around taxes, which have gotten out of hand. We all get our tax bill next month or have gotten it already. I've promised a property tax freeze that we will not for the first year, and beyond that, I'll make a dollar of cut for every property tax increase. Yes, we have to improve our school system. I've offered to pull together CPS and the junior colleges in order so our young men and women could have 14 years of education free, and at the end of that 14 years, they'd get an associate degree from the junior college and be trained for a job of the future. Those who want to go on to a four-year college and can afford that and want that, great. But we've got to give these young men and women an opportunity for the 14 years that we can hopefully educate them, have them come out of junior college with a degree, with a job opportunity, and with a life that will help our city grow. I want to work with historically black colleges, as I did when I was Commerce Secretary, and go to these colleges and say, your young graduates, we want them in Chicago to be entrepreneurs. We want them to come here, even if they weren't from this area, and join us in rebuilding our city in a way that hasn't been built in many years. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I ask for your support. More than that, even, I ask you to continue to be the force for good in this city, beyond no matter who's mayor of this city for the next 4 years, because we are all in this together. Thank you very much.
And now as we continue, you've heard from several of the candidates so far. You should be getting a profile of who you should be voting for, considering in the spirit of African American History Month, we want to celebrate the 100th anniversary, well, not celebrate, but commemorate the 100th anniversary of the 1919 Red Summer. A young man, Reverend Devin Crawford, who is an Addie Wyatt Bill Lucy Fellow at the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference, is going to come and share information with you at this time.
Thank you a great deal, Reverend Jeanette. Good morning. My name is Devin Jerome Crawford. I come representing the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference and our General Secretary, Dr. Iva Elaine Carruthers. The Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference is an NGO of the United Nations. It also serves as a 501c3 organization that works to mobilize, sustain, and nurture the African American church. As we approach this year, we thank God for the life and witness of the Reverend Dr. Jesse Lewis Jackson and his work to build a rainbow coalition that has built a foundation for freedom struggles across the world. In this year, 400 years since the first 20 Africans landed on Fort Comfort, Virginia. And this year, 100 years since the race riots of 1919, the Red Summer of 1919, the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference has answered the call to sacred memory. We are excited to tell you about our annual Truth-Telling Commission that will take place in Elaine, Arkansas on February the 8th. We are commemorating the largest massacre of black people in this country, the Elaine, Arkansas massacre. We will hear from the stories of men and women who were born in the legacy of that great massacre, such as the Honorable Danny Davis. We will hear his testimony. We will hear the testimony of men and women who continue to strive towards freedom in the midst of this long, dark time. And after we leave Elaine, Arkansas, we will move to Birmingham for our annual meeting of the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference. In Birmingham, we will engage the legacies of freedom fighters, not only there, but also in Selma, Alabama, and in Montgomery, Alabama, where we will partner with none other than the attorney Brian Stevenson to listen and to reclaim the legacy of those lynched brothers and sisters who have made a way for us today. And so, brothers and sisters, we want to continue to encourage you to answer the call to sacred memory. For we know, in the words of our ancestor, Dr. Katie Cannon, that when white people tell you that your history is a lie, that you tell the truth anyway. This is sacred work to us. And we know that truth is forever on the scaffold. Wrong is forever on the throne. Yet the scaffold sways the future. And behind the dim unknown standeth God, who keeps watch above his own. So we answer the call to sacred memory and the cry of black blood. God bless you, and all power to the people.
So we hope that you will be joining Dr. Carruthers and Dr. Freddie Haynes at the Proctor Conference this year. As a part of our ongoing development of young people, we have Ms. Carly Lewis, a fifth grader at Sutherland Elementary School. She's our oratorical presenter this week. And following Carly, the next speaking voice you will hear will be none other than our own national spokesperson, Mr. Jonathan Luther Jackson. He's heard the candidates, he's been out in the street, and he's going to tell us, therefore, these are some things that we ought to be concerned about. Carly.
Good morning. Today I will recite for you excerpts from The Present and Future of the Colored Race in America by Frederick Douglass. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that most of you will agree with me in respect to the surpassing importance of the subject we are here to consider this evening, though you may differ with me in other respects. It seems to me that the relation subsisting between the white and colored people of this country is of all other questions the great, paramount, imperative, and all-commanding question for this age and nation to solve. It cannot be denied that the question, what shall be done with the Negro, now stands before us as one of life and death. We are encompassed by it as by a wall of fire. The flames singe and burn us on all sides, becoming hotter every hour. I stand here tonight, therefore, to advocate what I conceive to be such a solid basis, one that shall fix our peace upon a rock. Putting aside all the hay, wood, and stubble of expediency, I shall advocate for the Negro his most full and complete adoption into the great national family of America. I shall demand for him the most perfect civil and political equalities, and that he shall enjoy all the rights, privileges, and amenities enjoyed by any other members of the body politic. I weigh my words, and I mean all I say when I contend, as I do contend, that this is the only solid and final solution to the problem before us. It is demanded not less than by the terrible exigencies of the nation, than by the Negro himself, for the Negro and the nation are to rise or fall, be killed or cured, saved or lost together. Save the Negro, and you save the nation. Destroy the Negro, and you destroy the nation. And to save both, you must have but one great law of liberty, equality, and fraternity for all Americans, without respect to color. But the question is, can the white and colored people of this country be blended into a common nationality and enjoy together under the same flag in the same country the inestimable blessings of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as neighborly citizens of a common country? I answer most unhesitantly, I believe they can. The fact is, my friends, we are opening a new account with the American people and with the whole human family. Hitherto, we have been viewed, and we have viewed ourselves as an impotent and spiritless race, having only a mission of folly and degradation before us. Thank you.
Thank you, and I say a very special thank you to all of you that are in attendance today. There has been a polar vortex in the Chicagoland area. We have survived. We have sustained weathers that no other region on earth has made it. And I, like many of you, had some heating issues and challenges here and there, but we thank God that we are here today. We are warm on the inside here in Chicago, 930 East 50th Street, broadcast live in Chicago, Illinois. I asked my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, if I could speak today, and I thank him for this opportunity. He will be with you on next week. On this very first day, if you will, the second day of African American History Month, let us look back and reflect upon how did we get here. This is an incredible year. This is 400 years later of Africans in the America. In the United States, 400 years from 1619 to 2019. And I must say, this only empowers me. I know who's in Washington, I know who's in the United States Senate, and I know who's in Virginia. But I also know and believe that there's a God that pushed us, shielded us, protected us, and has us on a divine course for our destiny. Here we are in 2019, headline news of what's going on in Virginia. Well, let me tell you one thing about politics, if you will. And some people say you can't discuss politics with family, friends, don't deal with money with family or friends, don't talk religion with family or friends. I would say the exact opposite. If you want to know who your real family is spiritually, if you want to know who your real friends are, if you want to know the substance of people, have this difficult conversation and you'll understand where people stand. In the words of Reverend Martin Luther King, not in times of comfort and convenience, but in the moments of challenge. We supported Brother Bill Clinton,
Although he was in support of 3 strikes and went against welfare reform and other things that raised the mortality on many people, the alternative was worse in George H.W. Bush and the right wing and Take Back America with Newt Gingrich. They're never perfect choices. So I tell the young people, don't get bitter, don't get caustic, don't turn on the people that are fighting for you. Governor Nordstrom, you see the blackface, which is wrong. You see the Klansmanhood that is wrong. But you also have to understand, during the time of the election, it was versus a gentleman that said nothing against the death in Charlottesville when Heather Heyer was killed in Charlottesville. He took an African American on as his lieutenant governor. He's had an outstanding career in the military. He has been of service. But having said that all, now that the video is out, now that the pictures, and now that we are clear, we have to have as much passion as getting rid of blackface, getting rid of Klansmen, getting rid of Nazis, and it's time for Governor Nordstrom to go. We can't harbor it, can't understand it, can't apologize for it, and I'm sure he can continue to do some public service, but he should not lead the great state of Virginia. The great state of Virginia, 400 years later, in its soil, it's soiled. Couldn't help but think about my grandmother, Miss Gertrude Brown. Couldn't help but think about Dr. Carter G. Woodson, both of whom come from Virginia. Why are we here today and why are we talking about African American History Month? The founder of African American History Month is a gentleman, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Dr. Carter G. Woodson comes from Virginia, Newton, Virginia. He was unable to get a formal education in Virginia because his family were miners, African Americans. He had to work. Born in 1875, died in 1950. Dr. Carter G. Woodson could not formally go to school until the age of 20. I want you to see how God worked through Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Went to school at the age of 20. Had to have his big hands and long knees underneath a small little table and a chair in a school with children. From there, he graduated early because he was continuing to teach himself how to read. After he quickly graduated, he went on to high school, having made his family money. Then went on to Berea College in Kentucky and graduated. Then he came back to teach. Educators. He went back to teach into the same school system that did not allow him to get an education. We've had a history of lifting as we've climbed. I am so tired of many of our educators padding the payroll, talking about my days off, talking about my pension, talking about what's wrong with the school system. We need an educator that's on fire, that wants to teach. Stop fixing the blame, fix the problem. And there are enough of us to fix the problem. He went back to teach. He didn't need a salary to do that. From there, he came to Chicago. A man that went back to school, that did not have a formal education, that could not go to school until the age of 20, went on to get a college degree, went back to teach, then went to the Philippines to teach as a supervisor for 4 years. Dr. Carter G. Woodson came to Chicago to get an undergrad degree at the University of Chicago, just down the block from here. Went on to get his master's from the University of Chicago, down the block from here. Lived in Bronzeville to start Negro History Week. I know we've got some cynical people. Why is Black History Month only in the month of February? Chill out. No great conspiracy there. Why did the founder put Negro History Week and then go on to have it African American History Month in February? He did it in dedication to the birthday of Frederick Douglass and to the birthday of Abraham Lincoln. The founder of African American History Month wanted to make sure that we would study it all year long. What did he find by the time he went to Harvard? By the time Dr. Carter G. Woodson went to Harvard, he is the first African American descendant of slaves to get a PhD from Harvard. When he went through the annals of history and he was looking for the contributions of all people, he saw deletion, no credits for African Americans and our substance and impact to the history of America. His quote is, how can a people value themselves and others value them when they see no meaningful contribution that they've ever made? He knew that when you have inaccuracy, when people had focused on the white on the page and deleted the blacks off of the page, that you would end up creating hysteria. So what did Dr. Carter G. Woodson do? He sought to go back and archive our accomplishments and show that we've always been here. To go back to show when John Hancock and Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin met, that there too was a young child, Phyllis Wheatley, that was 8 years old, that had been kidnapped, that they had to approximate her age because of the size of her teeth, that had been kidnapped from West Africa. That was the first African to be manumitted, to be absolved of slavery in the Americas. He wanted it codified and put down on the record. Dr. Carter G. Woodson saw a time in history where there would no longer be the need for African American history. Mr. Jackson, that's incredulous. Why would you say that? He's a historian. He wanted to see history told correctly. You cannot have history if you have deletion and distortion. That's called propaganda. When we have our true credits in history, it's one American history. When you have one American history, you don't say Sally Hemings was a slave and that Thomas Jefferson had an affair. You say that Thomas Jefferson was raping and molesting a woman. And that Thomas and Jefferson had children by a woman that he had enslaved, and he sold his own children. And Thomas Jefferson is now credited for having freed the children he had with a woman. It's a complicated history. But 400 years later, we have a forum where we can speak truth to power. We're going to comfort the disturbed and disturb those that are too comfortable. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, then he went to Harvard to get his PhD and was on a mission publishing the Negro Week. You've heard of the book, The Miseducation of the Negro? Now, you can't tell me Dr. Carter G. Woodson isn't brilliant. His first book was The Education of the Negro. Knowing how our minds work, our culture, our attitude, and the things that bother us, he saw that book didn't sell. So then he had to write it in the negative, the miseducation, because people weren't interested in the education. He went on to tell us in that book, the Negro that is in the ghetto cannot rely upon the hand that's put him in the ghetto to get him out of the ghetto. He went on to tell our children that went on to get masters and PhDs. You must first master the business that your parents have created. If your parents have a banana cart, you expound upon that and you sell more bananas off that cart. How do you get an MBA? How do you get a PhD? And you sit at home passing out your resume, emailing it, texting it, Twittering, but you can't make income. Don't lose and have false pride. Go to work. Got a degree and say, I can't find no work. Then he says, and Dr. Carter G. Woodson, then make some work. He says you can start and you can go 8 blocks around your house and you can become a millionaire working just within your neighborhood. You can do the grounds in the summer. You can do the snow in the winter. You can learn how to fix and repair a house. You can have a store at the end of your block. You can learn how to do hair. You can learn how to do a weave. You can learn how to do a sew-in. You can learn how to do a nail. To be industrious in your own neighborhood. Dr. Carter G. Woodson taught us a lot. Let us not get it confused and say this was Negro history. It's American history made whole. He wanted to play the black and the white keys on the keyboard. He wanted the flats and the sharps. He wanted to see a nation moving together. What do we have in Virginia today? Oh, Virginia. When I think of my grandmother, born and lost her parents at the age of 12, 13, an orphan child, having to be raised by the neighbor, having a child at the age of 14, having gotten married by 20 and having 5 of her children, having worked at the VA and the hospital in the kitchen. While I was in college in 1988, my grandmother was in college. My grandmother went back to get her GED in Virginia when she was age 55. I'm giving a very clear message to some seniors and to some mothers and to some grandmothers. Dr. Carter G. Woodson told us there's discrimination, there's racism, but guess what? Superior talent will win out. They can cheat on the goal line, they can cheat on the scoreboard, but when you have a Cam Newton, when you have all of our great quarterbacks, when they keep showing up, you can't deny the talent. You gotta be better. I'm not mad at it, it ain't right, but I'm not gonna turn back time. We're gonna fight and move forward. Where's the fight? And brothers and sisters, let us not turn on each other. I was out with a friend last night, Brother Cecil Guyton. He asked me to come to bury his young nephew, Javon Britton. As I left my house on the south side and went down Stony Island and on I-57 and got to Matteson, beautiful south suburban neighborhoods, lovely houses, great families, Rich Central High School, and to see a child 18 years of age in a casket. To have to hug the auntie. And I shared with her, I really don't want to enter the sanctuary now because seeing these children in caskets just hurts me. And she said to me, how do you think I feel? To sit there and to see the mother having to bury her young, handsome child who had just gotten his certificate to go to trade school, that was looking forward to graduation this spring in a lovely south suburban of Chicago high school and community. To see his classmates with their head down, to see his nieces and nephews, and also to see a brother Cecil Guyton. He says, Jonathan, I want you to come. I want you to be a part. He says, I've had many opportunities and many family members to die from gun violence, but I want to turn this into something now. Cecil's just looking for a few good men to join him. His nephew was killed on Reverend Martin Luther King's birthday holiday in Orland Park Mall by another child 20 years old. And to see a man and a family with so much compassion, they said, we're hurting. And to see the preacher at the church say, this family's hurting, but we know the other family's hurting too. To see the preacher say, they lost their child and we've lost ours. Cecil, when he comes back, we're going to start working. My father, the Reverend Jackson, has told us we need to have vigils and assaults and marches, demonstrations against this gun violence. It's a scourge, it's an epidemic. We need to call in the Center for Disease Control to look at this hatred, to see where it's coming from, why our children are killing each other. And while the Center for Disease control is here. We need to put racism on trial. For a man in 1984 in Virginia to be in medical school, to go into the military, to didn't find anything wrong and can't recall if he was blackface or the Ku Klux Klan. We need to have a war on this violence at home. We need to take this to the next level. What would Dr. Carter G. Woodson think of us now? When I think of my mother and my grandmother in Virginia, I graduated from North Carolina A&T in 1988. My grandmother graduated at the age of 63 from Hampton University at the age of 63 in 1988. My grandmother went on to get her master's at the age of 65 in Virginia. My brother Junior joked with her and said, "Grandma, it's kind of late for you to start career planning, isn't it?" She said, "Son, I had different life circumstances." She said, "I worked in the kitchen all my life." She says, "But I never wanted to be there. And I've always wanted an education." Can we say that today? Do our children have that burning desire to want to destroy ignorance 400 years later when you could not read a book, and now some boast about never having read a book? In the name of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, right here in the city of Chicago, we can start a values transformation. I remember talking with Spencer Leak Sr. as I saw his son, Spencer Jr., working that funeral last night. I couldn't help but give young Spencer a hug. I said, "How do you do this?" And his head heavy and hair gray now, he just shook his head. He said, "It hurts to close the casket on these young children. And it's happening every day." And I think far too many of us have become too insensitized. The volume. Children aren't supposed to bury their classmates. You're supposed to graduate with them. When our public officials turn a blind eye, you heard one of the mayoral candidates say, "We offered to give Amazon $2.3 billion. Here's the problem I'm going to have going forward on many of these candidates. I'm going to have a 365-day campaign reminding people of everything they said. You can find $2.3 billion right here in the city of Chicago to offer to give to a company that rejected it and said, "I don't want it, I'm not coming here, I've gone on some other place." Now when we say it's time to hire 50,000 children for the summer, you say we don't have any money. We need to think big and ask big and demand big. We've got our governor in place. We've got our county board person in place. We're going to have the mayoral candidate we want in place. What are our demands, and what are we going to hold their feet to the fire on? We've got a new city council coming into being. We've got to put some demands on the table. Stop turning on each other, turn to each other, and let's go for the bigger picture. My father wanted us to play this video today of Jackie Robinson. I'm going to stop now and pick this up sometime really soon. We're going to stay on African American history, on the black and the white. We're going to talk about John Brown and the good that he did for America, the Abraham Lincoln. We're going to talk about those whites that made progress for African American history. And we're going to highlight some of the Negroes that were doing the bidding for slave masters and plantations and overseers that keep their foot on our neck on behalf of an old system. It's not about the personality, it's about the principle. Now I'm done. We're going to turn on the Jackie Robinson video, and please stay.
The only thing that we're demanding is that we be allowed to move ahead just like any other American citizen.
Today we must balance the tears of sorrow with the tears of joy. Mix the bitter with the sweet, death and life. Jackie, as a figure in history, was a rock in the water, creating concentric circles and ripples of new possibility. He was medicine. He was immunized by God from catching the diseases that he fought. The Lord's arms of protection enabled him to go through dangers seen and unseen, and he had the capacity to wear glory with grace. Jackie's body was a temple of God, an instrument of peace. We would watch him disappear into nothingness and stand back as spectators and watch the suffering from afar. The mercy of God intercepted this process Tuesday and permitted him to steal away home, where referees are out of place and only the supreme judge of the universe speaks.
I want to thank you, Rachel Robinson, for allowing me to again speak for the family, as I was privileged to do for his transition ceremony upon his passing. Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, integrating and consolidating the white and black baseball leagues in 1947. Jackie was a trailblazer who made new ways, not a pathfinder who traveled the easier and the convenient way. He chose the road less traveled. He chose dignity over dollars, freedom over finance. From the ball field, his fearless integrity forever altered the political landscape of our nation. Jackie's athletic feats unlocked doors once held tightly by the glue of race supremacy. He expanded our view from looking at athletes in the world through a keyhole to looking at the world through an open door. Jackie's skill and Branch Rickey's will. There was never a talent deficit, always an opportunity deficit. Then as now, we, those who erected the walls and the barriers, like Branch Rickey, must help to pull them down. We need some Branch Rickeys to challenge the behavior that hurts victim and victimizer. Many have followed Jackie Robinson. Too few have followed Branch Rickey. After Jackie broke the color line, at last the doors opened. Thus on both sides, growth was unlimited and truth was no longer crushed. Jackie Robinson, a champion athletic competitor and an heroic freedom fighter. Champions win events between the lines. When champions win, as in the case of his most valuable play in 47, we see his feat expressed. When champions win, as in the case of catching the line drive off the bat of Eddie Wakefield in Philadelphia in 1950, preventing the winning run, and when he came to bat in the 13th inning to hit the game-winning home run, champions. When champions win, stealing home against the Yankees in the World Series, giving Yogi Berra a permanent fit. When champions win, they ride on the people's shoulders. But champions are limited to the field of play. Heroes operate with their gifts beyond the lines. Their feats are transformative to a culture, to a people. The people ride on the shoulders of the heroes. He lifted a barrier of culture in 1947. We were in the 338th year of legal race supremacy, which did not end until 1954. He challenged the barriers of law and habits and culture and racism. He did it with the quality of sacrifice and discipline and dignity of the highest order. He withstood the spikes, the taunts, the black cats. And the non-support of teammates saved P.B. Reese in his heroic act in Louisville, standing with Jackie. He withstood the death threats. By Jackie's stripes, the nation experienced healing. He shed blood, wiping away the wounds of spikes for generations unborn, binding the spike wounds without retaliation for a higher good. Excellence was a weapon. The spirit of sacrifice for the Dodgers and the people, excellence was a virtue. He didn't just change baseball. He irreversibly changed and altered a perverse course of race supremacy. The walls of fear and irrational relations had to come down. He opened the doors. Major League Baseball really began in 1947. Major League Baseball began in 1947. Prior to that, there was a white league and a black league. They became major in 1947 when everybody could play, when they became one. We don't know what the white hitters were like that never faced Satchel Paige. We don't know what the white runners were like that never ran on Josh Gibson. There were two leagues, a white and a black. It became major in 1947. We didn't know how good baseball could be until everybody could play. His feats opened the door for the NBA, NFL, tennis, golf. All these are fruits from Jackie's seeds. Blacks and browns, people of color, have done amazingly well on the athletic field since in these last 58 years. The lesson to be learned whenever the playing field is even, the rules are public and the goals are clear, we'll all do well. 1947, 7 years before the Supreme Court decision, Brown v. Board of Education, 9 players on the diamond and then 9 on the Supreme Court. What poetry, ending 335 years of legal race supremacy. Baseball was his platform, but not his truest passion. It was one of the sports he excelled in. All of us could not be professional ball players, but thanks be to God, following Jackie, we can all pursue dignity. Jackie and Rachel marched with Dr. King in 1963 in Washington at the Great March. It was a glorious day for me. On my way back to college to play football, rushing from the march, I met Jack and Rachel in the National Airport as they hurried to catch the plane back to New York. To think on my way back to college, to hear Dr. King and then to meet Jackie and Rachel, what a day. With all of his baseball accolades, when he finished playing baseball, baseball had no place for him upon his retirement. 9 years before the Public Accommodations Bill, 10 years before the Voting Rights Act, in 72, baseball was not going to honor the 25th anniversary of Jackie's entry into baseball. As a founding member of Operation Push, we protested in Chicago and showed the Jackie Robinson film. Major League Baseball got the message and honored him in Cincinnati. 40 years later, too often we're choosing incarceration over education and rehabilitation. So Jackie keeps running. But through it all, Jackie remains the champion, but moreover, the hero, the trailblazer, beyond the field. We thank Jackie for teaching us to get better and not bitter, for bitterness blinds. We thank Jackie for showing us you are not who you are called, but rather you are who you are. We thank Jackie, a first-class patriot, a second-class citizen, for not giving up on America. We thank Jackie for inspiring the left behind to run faster, for being a light in dark places and for bringing heat into cold places. We thank Jackie for affirming that weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. We may not be responsible for being down, but must be for getting up. And when we do, God is available, the rope of hope. And no matter how deep the hole, how deep the spikes, how mean the humiliation, we can overcome, because nothing is too hard for God. We thank Jackie Robinson, a transformative force whose life made America better.
You made my soul a burning fire. You're getting to be my one desire. You're getting to be all that matters to me. Well, let me tell you, boy, I hope and pray each day I live. What little more love I'd have to give. A little more love that's devoted and true. 'Cause all I do is think about you. All I do is think about you. Hey, all I do is think about you. Now, baby, just suppose I should happen to cross your mind, your mind, your mind. And by some chance, a girl like me you're really been trying to find. Well, let me tell you, boy, I'd light a candle every day and pray that you'll always feel this way, and pray that our love will forever be true. 'Cause all I do is think about you. All I do is think about you. Hey, all I do is think about you. I say I'm thinking, baby, about you lately. About you. Hey, I'm thinking, baby, about you lately. Hey, I'm thinking about you lately. Oh, I'm thinking, say about you lately. All I do is think about all I ever do. Yeah. Is think about you. Hey, oh, is think about you. See, all I ever do is think about you. Hey, I say I'm thinking, baby, about you lately. Oh, I'm thinking, baby, about you lately. I said I'm thinking, baby, about you lately. Said I'm thinking, baby, about you lately. Hey, swap on up on top of the bit about you. Hey, swap on up the bit. Hey, now baby, just suppose I should happen to cross your mind, and by some chance a girl like me you really been trying to find. Hey, think of how exciting it would be if you should discover you feel like me. If you should discover this dream is for two. Say all I do is think about you. Is think about you. Hey, all I do is think about you. Hey, all I do is think about you. Hey, all I do is think about you.
Thank our guest soloists for that powerful selection. Thank Jonathan for an outstanding keynote. It's your opportunity now to participate in the program. We need you to give as you've never given before. Some of us have been in the house so long we have cabin fever. You saved some money. You didn't have to eat out in the street because you were locked into the home. And so now we need you to prepare to write your checks to Rainbow Push. If you need to swipe your card, raise your hand. We have the swipe. We take debit or credit cards, but whatever way you want to give, check, money order, or cash, prepare to give now. If you need an envelope, raise your hand. Any envelopes over here? Envelopes over here, swipe over here. We need some giving music, happy music. Everyone that would give $100 or more, raise your hand. Thank you, Benny Payne. Those of you who will give $50 or more, raise your hand. Are you all warm? Clap for the heat. You can see me, right? Clap for the lights. You can hear the music, right? Clap for the music. I need you to give like you're feeling right now. Write your checks. Rainbow Push Coalition. Give as you have been blessed to give. As the choir will sing, you may stand and go to the aisle closest to where you are seated to bring your gifts down. Won't you stand and go to the aisle closest to where you are to make your contributions. If you need to swipe, go to my left, your right. Otherwise, just come to the offering basket.
I'm thinking, baby, give it to me, baby. I'm thinking, baby.
Black History Month tribute to Stevie Wonder.
I'm thinking, baby, give it to me, baby. Hey, thinking, baby, yeah, about you, baby. Ooh, I'm thinking, baby, give it to me, baby, yeah, baby. Oh, I'm thinking, baby.
We're gonna all lead together. Please don't walk out. We're gonna all lead together. Just return to your seats and we'll be ready to go in 3 minutes, I promise you.
About you, all I do is think about you. All I do is think about you. All I do is think about you.
If you need to swipe, the swipe is to my left. If you need an envelope, raise your hand. I thank the choir for $40.